Good morning, Bucknutters. It is Tuesday, November the 7th, 2023. I am Dan Rubin. This is the Bucknuts Morning 5 and Change. Got a great show for you today. Lots of recruiting chatter with Bill Kurelic and Mark Porter. There's some other stuff going on in the Big Ten I'm not sure if you're aware of. We will get to all of it. But first, it's not a bird. It's not a plane. It's a ball trimmer sent from space. Gentlemen, our friends at Manscaped have been working night and day to bring you a below-the-waist grooming experience like none other with their brand-new Lawnmower 5.0 Ultra. We're talking about a next-generation trimmer with interchangeable blade heads for whatever shave your mind can imagine. Upgrade your grooming game to the Ultra Sphere this year by going to Manscaped for 20% off, plus free shipping with the code BUCKNUTS. High-tech for low places, Manscaped. Taking it on the go, Manscaped has you covered. This puppy comes with a travel case and even a travel lock feature to avoid any accidental powering and or weird looks in the airport. This right here is on the cutting edge of cutting it up. Upgrade your ball trimmer and your life will follow. Get 20% off plus free shipping with the code BUCKNUTS at manscaped.com. That's 20% off, free shipping with the code BUCKNUTS. I can promise you, you've never seen a ball trimmer look like a spaceship. Get yours today from our folks at Manscaped. Welcome to my groomed friends, Bill Kurelic and Mark Porter. Gentlemen, we've got plenty to get into here on the recruiting front, on the team front, and on the soap opera front, but we will start with recruiting. Bill, I have said this multiple times. When you and the Fong, Steve Wilk-Fong, both roll a crystal ball towards Columbus, I assume the player is already enrolled. When you and the Fong do this, and it's an out-of-state recruit, and that state's expert, in this case, the state of Texas, and Mike Roach rolls a crystal ball for the great Devin Sanchez, arguably the number one corner in the class of 2025. We've talked about him a lot. Your thoughts on rolling that crystal ball, Bill? And this was a very pleasant way to start the week this week to see that.
Indeed. In my mind, Devin Sanchez is the number one corner in the country for the class of 2025. He's an absolutely lockdown corner. You don't get any better. And he has been an Ohio State target for a long time. And I've talked to him, as you know, a number of times. I've talked to his mom. I've talked to his dad. And once he visited Ohio State in April, he told me that Ohio State was number one on his list. And that really has been consistent since then. The last time I talked to him after he visited Ohio State for the Penn State game, he even said that if Ohio State continues to do what they're doing, they could well run away with this thing, meaning his recruitment. I don't think Ohio State is going to not continue to do what they are doing. I think they're going to continue. Tim Walton and the staff, Mark Pantoni and Ryan Day, and I think they're going to continue to do a great job of recruiting Devin Sanchez. And even if he commits to Ohio State in January, I think they're going to do a great job of recruiting him all the way until he signs. But then, as you know, he is going to make his announcement at the I always call it Army, at the All-American Bowl, and he's going to do it on 247 Sports, and he is going to do it in early January. And thus, knowing where Ohio State is at with him right now and what I expect them to continue to do, I crystal balled into the Buckeyes.
Mark, we did an offer evaluation on Devin before this season, and you said he would be the number one corner in the state. At the end of all our evaluations for out-of-state players, we try and put in context where they would rank coming out of this great state of Ohio. His film is just it's spellbinding. I believe the term Jalen Ramsey came up, and hyperbole aside, your thoughts on your evaluation.
We start talking quarterbacks. The length is like the real. You guys can turn around, and cover with length, or
Looks like Mark was having some technical difficulties there. We'll wait for him to get back on. Bill, was he sounding garbled to you too, Bill?
Yeah.
Okay.
That
So
could
we'll
not
wait
understand.
for him to get back on. Yeah, let's let him connect and reconnect. And a little bit more on Sanchez, and that keep in mind, he comes from Texas. We all know Texas has great high school football. It's also got a lot of high school football, and there are different levels. And I've said this before, being a Cowboys fan, one of the guys who hosts like their post-game show used to cover preps in the Houston and Texas area, and says when North Shore plays Duncanville and you stand on the sidelines, you feel like you're at an NFL game. It's that good. You're talking about there is no level of high school football better than what Devin Sanchez plays. Mark, let's give this another shot.
Yeah, sorry about that. I was talking about the length is like the real value at corner, like cornerbacks that are long with long arms that can turn their hips and, run. That's the top of the echelon corner, and that's what we're looking at here with Sanchez. He's obviously going to be the number one corner for this class in Ohio, but I think Jermaine Matthews, Aaron Scott, those type of long corners that we're getting, Bryce West, he fits right in with them, where they're almost a basketball team with their length more than DBs. I mean, there's a lot of teams playing with 5'9", 5'10" corners, and they're very happy with them, where all of our guys are going to be over 6 foot with that length. It's really going to cut down some passing lanes, and all those inches start to add up. The other part you really like when you're doing the film is he looks like a receiver. Like when he turns and goes and gets the ball, you think the ball was thrown to him sometimes. He really has a skill set where I'd love to see where we would rank him as a receiver in this class. And I think it would be a much higher than people would believe, because, boy, that length and that burst to the ball, when he – it's almost like when you throw a stick to a dog and they hit that accelerator to go jump and get it. It's got that type of burst to him where when he sees it, he goes and gets it. Obviously Bill's speaking very highly of him. It's easy to do that when you're at the top of the food chain like this, but those are the things I think that make him special: that burst, the length, the ball skills, the ability to play offense on defense.
Yeah. Recruits of this ilk have taken on certain names throughout my time here. He's a take any time guy. You know what I mean? Like, he's the guy that calls you as you're on your way to signing day, and you're like, come on. I believe he was also called a naked junt guy by the late great Dwayne Long. This is top of the food chain. So,
we always say, like, let's stop comparing guys to Jalen Ramsey and Marshawn Lattimore. But those guys come from places like Ohio State. Mm-hmm. So, when you start sniffing that trail this early, like, wow, there's breadcrumbs there where he could be on the same trajectory as those guys.
Sure.
You get excited, but, long way between now and then, of course. But, yeah, these are what the puppies look like before they become big dogs.
No question. And speaking of which, go ahead.
Dan, you started to talk about, Texas and football down there, and he's doing this against top competition. I mean, my first year out of college, I went down and was a teacher and high school football coach and basketball coach at Alief Elsick High School, which is a suburb of Houston. It's a big high school down there. And I've been used to Ohio football, but heard a lot about Texas football. You have to experience it. Yeah. My first year down there, I walk in and our stadium is a 10,000 plus seat concrete stadium, not bleachers. We're talking about a stadium. And it was like that in all the schools in our district. And the football was incredible down there. Spring football. Football is a way of life down there. And to be honest, that's one of the reasons I came back to Ohio. I was a basketball coach first and a football coach second. You don't do that in Texas, at least in those days. Everything was football really down there, and it is tremendous football.
I have a friend who was an elite basketball coach in the D.C. area who went and took over a program in Houston, and I could tell you some stories that would blow you away. To say that they take it more seriously down there is a gross understatement.
Well, I have to add one other thing. Talking about that, Dan, our football stadium, like I said, was a 10,000 plus stadium. Same high school. Our basketball arena was about 5 rows of bleachers on each side of the court as compared to the football stadium.
Now they've picked it up there. All their facilities in Texas now are crazy, but Texas high school football is off the charts. So I don't think there's anything we can say about that could give them any more credit than we did. Now, Minnesota high school football, not quite as competitive. However, Ohio State in the class of 2024 has dipped in there and offered a guy named Coy Perich, who looks to be the Lincoln Kienholz of Minnesota, where he's broken every record. He kind of got a handsome blonde young man and is just, when you read his athletic exploits, it kind of feels made up, kind of like Kienholz, where it's like, he's like Sammy Brown kind of track star. He was selling concessions. He's parking cars. This kid is putting up 50 points on the hoops court as a sophomore. He won the state in the long jump. And I watched for the first time he played Mighty Pequod Lakes, one game for his high school. This dude is shot out of a cannon, man. He's going to play safety. I'm really hoping he's not going to be compared to some other players who stood in the back and just hit everybody, like Mark said. But, man, I don't want to say – put it this way. I encourage everybody to go watch the tape and don't judge a book by its cover. Mark, your thoughts on Coy Perich. Now, keep in mind, this is not some talent they unearthed here, okay? I looked at his offer list. It's basically everybody but Alabama and Georgia. Okay, so the fact that he's going to Minnesota or he's committed there is clearly a regional preference. I've talked him up enough. Mark, am I exaggerating?
Not exaggerating at all. And you brought up a couple of things I didn't want to be the first one to say, where Minnesota football is not Texas football. Very nice way of saying that. When you watch this film, he's so dominating that's the first thing that, as a scout, I have to say is I wonder what that's like in Ohio. I wonder if he's at a St. Ed's or if he's at a Coldwater. To me, that makes a big difference. Not for him, his talent. His talent can still be great, and it can come from anywhere. It just, he's doing to poor competition what you should do to poor competition. His 100-meter time was, I think, 10.8, 10.89 or something last year, yes, 10.84. Exactly. Yeah, it was pretty good time. I mean, that's a strong time. It's not going to win you the state championship in Ohio or get you in the top whatever, but that 10.89 on that field up there looks like 4.3. He is blowing by guys. He is coming off the edge, and he looks shot out of a gun. He is clearly superior to everybody he's facing up there. And what it translates to is safety. He even plays a little outside linebacker, which I know they like. He comes off the edge and blitzes. Because I think he's so good at everything, they're asking him to do everything in high school. Tailback, handle the ball, be Mr. Everything. And that's a great quality to have. So when you get to Ohio State, you offer many different things. This is the kind of guy that you love to see in a 3-safety defense. He fits one of those spots, plays like a linebacker in the run. It's almost like when wild animals attack and you see like the cheetah go after the gazelle. When he takes off after some guys at this level, he really gets after them. So, yeah, he checks a lot of the boxes, but I wish I knew better what level he was playing at compared to Ohio, because it's like too good to be true. And you don't want to get too excited that, he's that good. But when you look at all his documentable times, it's about right. It looks pretty good.
Hold on a sec, Bill. He put up 50 points in hoops and ran that. So his coordination level's off the chart. Just to score 50 points in a basketball game, your hand-eye coordination has to be ridiculous. I'm going to tell you about one play of his, though. He's got tremendous, and I don't care who he's playing against, he has tremendous football instincts. He gets through the trash on defense better than anyone. There's a play where he runs across the field. He looks like a ballet dancer running through the trash. And then when he gets there, he is getting there with an attitude. He is a hitter. there isn't a play also on offense. His instincts are special where they're running the option to the left and he's the tailback and the quarterback makes the wrong read and gets stopped. He comes to a complete stop mirroring the quarterback, gets the pitch and goes 0 to 60 so fast that he still gets the corner from a complete stop. So, dude, this guy, good Lord. Anyway, Bill, I've already, rolled out the red carpet for him. He's committed to Minnesota. Ironically, Ohio State actually has a game against Minnesota at home. I hope he comes for that.
Was it Wisconsin or Minnesota? I thought he was Wisconsin. Minnesota. Okay.
He's committed to Wisconsin. The crystal balls were originally thinking, he's committed to Minnesota. If you look at the early crystal balls, they were to Wisconsin, so that might have thrown you off. Bill, give me the recruiting outlook.
Well, one other thing, too, Mark talked about the 10, 8, 900 meters, which is very good. It's not spectacular, but it's very good. He also ran a 4.54 laser time 40. Now, people are going to see that 4.54 and think, that's nothing great. But when you put the laser time on, that's a good time. Laser time and hand times are different animals. Well, and a 4.54 laser time is a good time.
A 4.54 laser is basically you can go look at the NFL Combine and match those up because they use the lasers and all that kind of stuff. That's a legit time. Like we've said about the 40, if you run a legit 4.40 40, you have a chance to make the 4x100 team in the United States. Okay, that is in 4.3. Come on, people don't really run those.
I did a deep dive on this subject, the 40 times and the laser times, about 10 years ago. And a lot of the guys that were running great on lasers, maybe under 4.5, were 137 pounds, 149 pounds, 155 pounds. Yeah. They're featherweights that fly. You're talking about nearly a 200-pound kid who's running on a 4.5 laser, which that is spectacular. And that jives with the 10, 8, 9, 100 meter. That makes sense. And that's not the, best way to relate times, but he looks like that on that field.
Mm-hmm. Go ahead, Bill.
He told me last night he is going to visit Ohio State. He said he does not expect to do it before. I asked him, will you visit for one of the last two home games, the Michigan State game this weekend, the Minnesota game the following weekend? He said probably not because his team is still in the season. And I understand that. Kids often don't want to make visits while their team is in season and playoffs, that type of thing. But he did say he is going to visit Ohio State. So I expect that to happen after the season as things stand right now. He was pretty excited. He was offered not by an assistant coach. He was offered by Ryan Day, that scholarship. And I encourage people, if you haven't gone to it yet, I put an article on Coy Perich on our site this morning. It has his video, his huddle video on there. You can see for yourself. And he talks about getting to Ohio State and all. Other schools are still recruiting him as well. USC, for instance, is still recruiting him. But, he's excited about that Ohio State offer. So let's see what happens.
We have plenty more recruiting content to get to. But first, I got to let you guys know about our other sponsor. Cashews, almonds, pecans, and pistachios, dried mango, crystallized ginger, dates, jelly beans, jawbreakers, root beer barrels. The variety is vast at nuts.com. Mind you, this is nuts.com, not manscaped.com. Don't get confused here because that could be really detrimental to your diet. Okay. We got nuts.com delivered to our house, and I've said this yesterday. I am allergic to nuts, but they gave me all these other products. One of them was chocolate-covered gummy bears, which I know sounds preposterous. If you don't want to gain 13 pounds in one night, don't try chocolate-covered gummy bears. There's some kind of like crossing the streams Ghostbusters elixir in there that is like affects with your brain. The dried mango was the best dried fruit I've ever had. My wife ate the bourbon nuts. My kids loved it. So I'm telling you, this is really good stuff. They send it to us. If you're a new customer now, you get a free gift with a purchase and free shipping of orders of $29 or more at nuts.com/bucknuts. Go check out all the delicious options at nuts.com/bucknuts. You receive a free gift and free shipping when you spend $29 or more. I'm not even kidding. We actually ordered it on our own dime afterwards. I can't give you a more strong endorsement of how fresh the products were. And like I said, I'm allergic to nuts, and they had a bunch of other stuff on that was delicious. I'm not allergic to knowing about recruiting information, Bill. Everyone wants to know about the visit this weekend. It's not going to be the Penn State visitor list, but it's an impressive one. One other thing I wanted to point out, and I said this yesterday, keep in mind the Michigan-Penn State game is at noon. So when Ohio State hosts Michigan State Saturday night, they're going to know kind of some information that could be a little bit more dramatic, and you could be having the stage to yourself. I love the idea of the recruits getting to see a night game, possibly against an overmatched opponent. 3 guys that I do know are expected to be there, Bill, for the class of 2024, and we'll start with that, given its current events value. Jordan Seaton, Carlin Jones, and Amaris Williams. Coy Perich also 24, but he won't be there. If they were to add Jordan Seaton, Carlin Jones, and Amaris Williams, they would have a rating of 314.04. They're currently number 2 in the recruiting rankings. Georgia's right now is 314.43. So it would give them one of an epic recruiting class, 0.39 off the top. Tell me about Jordan Seaton, Carlin Jones, and Amaris Williams, and whether or not you think this weekend could be a step towards them becoming Buckeyes in the class of 24.
Well, just starting with Jordan Seaton alone, that would take this class to another level because Ohio State needs offensive tackles, and he is tremendous. He is absolutely elite. Plenty of competition out there. He's taken a lot of visits. He's changed his schedule a few times. Oregon, Alabama, Ohio State now, Florida. Those schools are all top contenders in my mind. I don't think anybody can predict with a strong sense of being correct where that kid is going right now. He's changed his mind a lot of times, and with the NIL and all, and that's going to be important. We just don't know, but getting him on campus for this official visit for a night game, I think Ohio State has a shot, and that gives them a shot. If they can get him, the next guy for me on the list to get would be Amaris Williams. You watch his tape. He's a top 100 overall prospect. He's at a position of need, a defensive end edge guy, really athletic. He would be the next guy on my list. If you can get those 2 guys into this class becomes absolutely special. Carlin Jones is a very good player. They already have 2 defensive tackles in the class. That's not quite as big a need as offensive tackle and defensive end, but he's a fine player. It'd be nice to get him in as well. It's just that they are in a little bit better shape there, especially with a 5-star in the class in Justin Scott. So those guys make it a big, big weekend alone. And, as far as 2024 kids, this weekend is actually bigger than the Penn State weekend. Penn State weekend was really mostly about 2025 and some 2026 guys. This weekend, there's some really good 2025 guys on the list too, but 2024-wise, this is a bigger weekend than Penn State.
Who else is coming? A lot of commitments, that type of stuff.
Yeah, and I should mention too that Chance Robinson, the wide receiver from Florida that's committed to Miami, he has been scheduled. He's on the schedule to visit Ohio State, make an official visit to Ohio State this weekend. It's up in the air, I think, if that's going to happen. I had one source at Aquinas tell me last week told me that he may not be able to make it because of the playoffs and everything. Then a source at Aquinas last night told me that they don't expect him to make it to Ohio State this weekend. But I had another source this morning say, don't count him out just yet. He still might make it to Ohio State this weekend. So we'll see what happens there. Ohio State can take 4 wide receivers in this class. So don't cross him off the list yet. But then you go down to the 2, and then a lot of Ohio State commitments are going to be there, current commitments, I should say. For 2025, it's a good list too. Phillip Bell from California, the number 8 wide receiver in the country in the 2025 class, is going to be there. Edward Coleman is a wide receiver out of Georgia that doesn't get enough hype, so to speak. He is very good. He is going to be there. Micah DeBose, an offensive lineman that's committed to Georgia. He is a 5-star offensive lineman. He is from Ohio. Georgia wants to keep him. Absolutely. Alabama's going after him. Ohio State, Oklahoma, Auburn. He is from Auburn now, or I'm sorry, he is from Alabama now, but he is originally from Ohio, lived in Ohio in the Cleveland area till he was 8 years old. So he is going to be there. Zaire Mathis, a high 4-star defensive end out of Pennsylvania, is planning to be there. London Merritt, it looks like, is going to make it this time. London from Georgia was going to visit Ohio State for the Penn State game, but could not make it. But it looks like he will be at Ohio State this weekend. TJ Alford, an outstanding linebacker from Florida, is scheduled to be there. So a really solid list of 2025 guys. And then you go down to 2026, you've got Elbert Hill, who Mark and I like a lot. Outstanding corner out of Akron-Hoban will be there. Javian Mallory, a top running back from Florida, is going to be there. And then Tyler Merrill, an offensive lineman from Pennsylvania the Buckeyes have offered, is going to be there. So it's going to be a big recruiting weekend for Ohio State, no doubt.
Saturday night in the shoe can be really impressive too. So let's hope they put on quite the show. We were going to get into some Rutgers chatter, but it does seem like there's too many questions to do that. I'm not trying to ambush you guys here, but here's one. Fellas, go watch number 4 from Salina. Dominated Trotwood Madison this past weekend. He has to be ranked in Ohio. Go watch, go Bucks. Mark, you know who that is?
No, but I'll check it out.
Trotwood rocked Oakwood in the first round. They got over that mountain of a playoff opponent in the first round. By the way, Ohio playoffs have turned into sort of like basketball, where the first round is kind of a joke now. But anyway,
did you happen to see the stats of the 1 versus 16 matchups? There was no losses, and then the 2 versus 15. There were probably 9 or 6 or 9 in the state. So of all those first round matchups, not too much drama. It was in the middle where there were a lot of upsets.
That's better than basketball.
I went to a 69-0 first round matchup.
Yeah.
My problem with those games, I'm not trying to digress here, and basketball the same way, is when you have the number 1 seed. I know the way in Ohio, you get to pick your opponent and everyone dodges the number 1 seed, at least in basketball and stuff. But you play 2 or 3 games where the only drama is that one of the kids on the good team is going to roll their ankle. Those are 40-point games. It's just kind of a waste of time. I understand that they're built in financially and blah, blah. Anyway, let's get back to the real stuff here. Jonathan Dickens asks, will the scam up north cause any commits like Ben Roebuck to decommit and go elsewhere? I'll let you both chime in on that. Bill, you think?
Well, Michigan did have they've had decommitments, but they were kind of before all this latest situation came about. As the latest situation has come about, so far, none of them that I know of have wavered, but the situation is not over. We'll see what happens. It's got a ways. In my mind, it's got a long ways to go.
I'll tell you what, I'm not comparing Ohio State to Michigan, God forbid, but the shoe is on the other foot here. I lived through Tattoo Gate, and I think we broke the 24/7 Sports record for page views in the month that Urban and some others were involved in some off-court malfeasance. But, the shoe's on the other foot, people. Go ahead, Mark.
Yeah, if you look at it from like maybe a parent's point of view of the recruit, there's a lot of soft landing spots in college football to send your kid where academically he'll be fine, the campus is fine, everything's great. So when there is, wavy waters ahead of the program, you might have to say, hey, let's, retool this a little bit, not send you off to sea where you're going to be taking on, water over the bow right out of the gate. Depending on what this punishment can be, the stuff you read, as an Ohio State fan, you hope that happens. But it could be pretty devastating up there where, it might not be the funnest place to play. So I actually know a couple of Michigan recruits and their families. They're gung-ho. They're 100% in. They love their decision. There's no backing off that. I think their fingers are just crossed. This isn't going to be something that, they have to go make a decision on.
I'll give my comment on the situation now, just before we move on here. Every single thing you hear out of Michigan is based on the fact they think they're going to win out. You ever notice that? Every single thing they say is based on the fact they think they're going to win out. If they don't win out, that is going to be a bummer for them. That's what, when they say due process now, which by the way has nothing to do with anything but the government, but I digress. They mean we just want to play the season out and win, and then you bust us afterwards. You don't hear one person saying we didn't cheat because they cheated. That's not even really up for debate. So go ahead, Bill. You going to say something? No?
No. Go ahead.
All right. So, I mean, I don't have any new information on Michigan and stuff like that. Believe me, the Michigan reporters and the national people are out working on it. Here's another thing. Budgets for journalists are not what they used to be. When they used to send us out, I'm telling you this, and try and find stuff out. If they send someone to get you now, they're coming back with a story, okay? You've been pigeonholed. So they're in trouble. All right. Word came out of the mouth of Marvin Harrison that there's another Harrison brother coming. And according to Marvin, he's better than Marvin Sr. or Jr. Larry Ventresco wants to know, Bill, is Ohio State going to offer Jet Harrison, brother of Marvin Harrison?
If he's better than Marvin, they are going to offer him. That's for.
I think he's in the 8th grade. Is that right? So he's not quite on our radar. If he is what we expected, we'll start rolling the red carpet out for him very soon. We shall see. All right, let's see if we have any more questions here. He was not. Is that correct? The question is, Ben Roebuck even offered by Ohio State? I apologize for our podcasters.
No. Ben Roebuck was not offered by Ohio State.
Okay, let's talk about this weekend. Your thoughts on Michigan State versus Ohio State. Mark, I'll start with you. You can kind of weave your Buckeye in the sky that you saw against Rutgers into this and your vibes on the team going forward. It does seem to me that they are trying to make sure they are at 100% for Michigan. That was a MASH unit that played against Rutgers. 3 new guys in the secondary. G. Scott getting his first start. Emeka didn't probably get as many snaps as we would have liked. They did lean on Trey Henderson, who's looked tremendous. Your thoughts on maybe a little bit of the Rutgers game, what you know about Michigan State heading into that?
Yeah, I think I said that Rutgers was like a 10, 14-point, game, and you guys had a little more of a blowout status where I was a little more worried about, the skeleton crew maybe that we had going up there, or, a few holes. But that Rutgers team's a dangerous team. And this point in the year, everyone's executing. Everyone's got their bag of tricks. You called it aptly about you're going to see some trips. That fumble-rooski was awesome. As a football guy, hey, you pulled it off. You nailed it. And
especially
it went big.
Excuse me to interrupt you because I know people hate that. But especially in the days of the Bush push, where everybody is focused on that quarterback now, you know what I mean? To do it like that, very clever.
Yeah, that was a great little move, and that's what Ohio State, and we say this all the time. You're going to get everybody's A game. You're the Super Bowl champs. You're the one everyone wants to measure themselves by. So whether you're up for the game or not, they always are. You're the way that they get famous, and the same thing with Michigan State this week. If there's players that want to go to the NFL for Michigan State, they're going to be watching the Ohio State versus Michigan State tape to see how they fare against better players. So you're going to get their A game. I don't think Michigan State has enough. I'd be a little more apt like you guys last week to be more of a blowout, especially the night game. And as we try to ramp up and peak into the Michigan game and, at health and, X and O's wise, the schemes and everything we're seeing on film are the same. I love how the run game is developing. We did a big digression on zone and gap and all the pulling guards, and it's like a prize fighter now. You got some jabs, you got some uppercuts, you got some hooks, you got some body blows, and when you put them all together, the defense doesn't know what to sit on anymore. And when you put Henderson back there, it supercharges it. It looks good with everybody else, but when he hits it a few times, and I really just talking out, I didn't realize he was over 210 pounds, or at least listed at that. He's a little thicker in the lower body, which explains some of the tackles he breaks. I always had him maybe under 100, maybe 195, but hats off to the weight room for him, but he makes this thing go. And the worries we had earlier in the season about the offensive line have really went away. And it's because they're coming off the ball harder. They're playing a little harder, and the schemes are helping them out. Other things I see on Rutgers, it's just the same concepts we're kind of getting better at. The pass protection, the room he has to throw back there is ridiculous at times. And I put that in the message boards. There's a lot of plays where you could count to 5 or 6 and there's no one near that quarterback. And there are plays where there is pressure, but it's like driving a Rolls Royce when you can stand back there. And some of his throws, I'm talking about McCord, when he throws them in there and he has time, it's as good as it gets. They're on a rope. Yeah. It looks as good as any quarterback that's ever played here. It just, is that going to happen every single week, every single play?
I said this yesterday. He's very challenging to watch because his good plays look like the plays a really good quarterback makes. And I've watched football for a long time. I know what it looks like, the feeling I have when a guy throws the ball. Like, for example, it's very simple. The second touchdown to Marvin in the end zone, that pass was perfectly thrown. Boom, 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 right out. You know what I'm saying? But then he makes some decisions where I'm like, I have no idea what he was even looking at. So I hope that's fixable. You know what I'm saying? Like, you can't fix someone whose physical talent isn't up to snuff. I'm hoping Ryan Day and Corey Dennis can get him learned up, or experience, or whatever it is, so that, because he just hasn't been playing well enough for us to beat a tremendous team. He's got it in him, and we did it at Notre Dame down the stretch. All right, Mika Hanna is. Let's knock these out real quick because I missed these. We talked about Jordan Seaton. Bill, do we have a shot at landing David Sanders in 25? And then, Mark, you can answer, is Carter Lowe a true tackles prospect? Bill first. David Sanders, who is he in 25, and do they have a chance?
David Sanders is arguably the top number 1 offensive tackle for the class of 2025. He has been to Ohio State. He was here with his family. He has talked about getting back to Ohio State. He is interested. I think Ohio State has a shot. Now, having said that, I would, if I were a betting man right now, I would bet the field against Ohio State. I don't think it's likely that they win out on that one as things stand right now, but they do have a shot. As far as Carter Lowe, he's a tackle in my mind, but I'll throw that one to Mark too.
Mark?
Yeah, you know what? I think maybe that question about Carter being a tackle is he an elite left tackle like the Armstrong with those type of feet, or Jordan Seaton with those type of feet? Not quite, but he's still a tackle prospect. I mean, he might be more of the road grader. He might be better than some of those guys at the run blocking because I think he's a little more powerful. But is he the most elite-footed guy in our class, or the guys we're recruiting? No, but he can handle tackle. I don't in any way see him going to guard out of the gate or anything. When we show you the film of him that I have, there's a lot of him not pass protecting, so we only have a few clips, but in a few clips, it looks great. And I don't want to base everything off a few clips.
Sure.
Right, I'll add to that the night I saw him play, they threw the ball a decent amount of time, and he was very good that night in pass protection. In fact, I thought he was better in pass pro than run blocking that night. He had a very good night the night I saw him in person.
Sounds like a right tackle to me. Mika Hanna, are we still recruiting Tryon Nichols, or are we done at safety in 24? Obviously, we're not. They're recruiting Coy Perich. Can you tell me more about Gabe, the new offensive guard as well? His name is Van Sickle?
Van Sickle.
Okay.
And Tryon Nichols, they have continued to have an interest in him, but I just don't think he's going to budge off Kentucky. He's not really had any inclination to do that so far. And then, as we know, Ohio State just offered another 2024 safety, Coy Perich.
Gabe Van Sickle?
He visited Ohio State for the Penn State game. Someone the Ohio State is interested in. He's committed to Northwestern, and I haven't seen that changing to this point.
There you have it. We will be back with these dudes on Thursday with bells on. We don't have any more information on what's going on up north, but word is there should be some craziness coming down as early as Wednesday. And don't forget, we have the college football playoff reveal tonight as well. So lots going on. Keep it locked into Bucknutters. Have a good one, Bucknuts or Bucknutters, whatever.